The tank behind me has stayed relatively low with nitrates, and when I say relatively low, I mean around 20 to 40 parts per million. Sometimes it can get a little bit higher, but for the most part, 20 to 40 parts per million. And that's pretty good for a fairly well-stocked African cichlid tank, because African cichlids do eat a lot, so there's a lot of food going into the tank, and there's a lot of waste production, as you might imagine, right? So how are the nitrates staying so low in the tank behind me? There's a lot of things going on, and one of them has to do with sponges, something going on with the sponges that are associated with that tank. And I think you can make the same thing happen with really any sponge in any filter, including a sponge in a hang-on back filter, which I'll get into in a little bit here. But in the big tanks that I have sumps that are using large, upright, about 4-inch thick, 4-inch wide sponges. And these sponges over time become a little bit blocked in the areas of greatest flow. So they build up, they accumulate detritus, and then what happens is the flow in those areas slows down and the water finds other parts of the sponge to continue to move through quickly. So what happens then, assuming this is a sponge, let's say in the sump, this area where the water is hitting would become relatively blocked with a lot of waste. So then the water level would go up a little bit, and then a lot of the faster water would be up here, whereas down here the water would be slower. Now, if you leave that alone long enough, what will happen is you'll have a low volume area that is both low in water movement and also oxygen. Now, what that does is it gives you that second kind of beneficial bacteria. Remember, there are two kinds of beneficial bacteria. You've got the kind that is aerobic. It needs that flow of water going over it, right? Oxygenating, providing oxygen to it. This is why when somebody is cycling a tank, I tell them, be sure you're breaking up the surface tension, run your bubblers, right? Break up the surface when you're cycling your tank. That beneficial bacteria needs oxygen, right? There's another type of beneficial bacteria that actually is anaerobic. Now, over time, the filters in the sump, those large stand-up filters, they'll have an area that gets hit by the water a lot and most frequently, and that area over time will become a bit blocked. And then what happens is the water level will start to go up a little bit, right, to continue the flow through the sump. Now, this area down here, the blocked area, now becomes a low flow area, an area that is actually going to be potentially a home for anaerobic bacteria. Now, why is that important? It's actually the claim that is made by just about every media maker out there, whether it's Matrix or Biohome or anyone out there. They say that the inside of their media is going to be a low flow area and give you anaerobic bacteria. Why? Because that will convert nitrate into a gaseous form that will gas off of the aquarium, actually like leave the aquarium. So you end up with a true complete cycled tank. In other words, ammonia to nitrite to nitrate, and then the nitrate leaves, right? So one way to do that is with anaerobic bacteria, which a lot of fish keepers simply have given up with trying to get, and instead they do water changes, right? Including myself, I do water changes. So there's other ways of creating anaerobic zones. And one of the things that I think I've created with this aquarium behind me are some anaerobic zones inside the filters in the sump in some of the low flow areas that over time have become blocked, and I haven't rinsed them, right? I haven't squeezed out those sponges. I let these sumps run for about 6 months between any kind of maintenance, right? So you can do the same thing With a hang-on back filter, you just take that hang-on back filter and you insert something like this, maybe a little piece of sponge, put it in there at the bottom of that hang-on back filter, and then just leave it alone. Don't ever mess with it. Now, someone might hear that and go, well, wait a minute, isn't that going to become a nitrate factory? No. After a while, what's going on with that sponge becomes inert. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to run filters for any length of time, right? Our nitrates would go right through the roof. So this waste that builds up in these sponges doesn't continue to build up nitrates, right? Nitrates build up because they're simply not consumed by bacteria or removed by water changes or consumed by plants, right? Plants and algae are other ways to reduce nitrates. I have in the aquarium behind me in the sump, I have what's called an algae scrubber. It's in the sump, it's a home for algae. And what that algae does is it consumes nitrates. It's a ravenous nitrate consumer, right? You'll see this in saltwater tanks a lot, these algae scrubbers. This one is from Santa Monica Filtration, and it does a great job in creating a rich population of algae that I have to clean out every few weeks because it gets too thick, and it's consuming a lot of nitrates. What I'm suggesting here is that sponges can in fact be used as a low flow zone if they're not rinsed so thoroughly and so frequently. Now, you're going to want to keep those sponges somewhat clean, so you are going to pull them out, but maybe by leaving a piece in there that's alone and not messed with, you can actually end up creating a low flow zone and some anaerobic bacteria. I've also accomplished that by having a deep substrate. In the deep substrate, which I don't mess with, I don't even vacuum the tank behind me except maybe a couple times a year if I notice a pocket of detritus. But I have in several tanks a deep substrate, and that deep substrate is the home of beneficial bacteria that is anaerobic because it's a low flow, low oxygen area. And as a result, that helps to convert nitrate into the form where it can gas off and leave the aquarium. Maybe we shouldn't be rinsing as much, or perhaps have a section in our filter, even a canister filter. You can probably have a part, a section, maybe a donut of sponge that you just don't touch. You go ahead and pull out the middle sections, rinse those out when you do your canister maintenance, but leave the outside donut, leave that alone. That could possibly become so blocked that it creates a low flow anaerobic area in the aquarium. So next time you go to clean your hang-on back filters, maybe consider inserting a little piece of sponge that you're going to be leaving alone and forgetting about, and just see what happens. See if over time your nitrates start to go down because they're being converted. Or add an algae scrubber, or add a deep substrate, or add a bunch of plants. And in either case, you'll be able to control your nitrates in other ways beyond just water changes. Water changes, I think, are important for other reasons in that they remineralize the water. I love the way my fish behave and look after a water change. But at the same time, always keep in mind that water changes are probably where fish keepers run into the biggest problems. They don't temperature match, they forget to condition the water. There's a big pH shift between the water they had in the tank and the tap because of something that was done at the water plant, or they waited a long time between water changes, and there's a pH shift that crashes the tank, something like that. So water changes do come with risks. So if you come up with other ways to control nitrates, whether it's plants, deep substrate, algae scrubbers, or sponges that are become low flow zones, or for that matter, even biomedia, like your BioHome, like your Matrix, right? Like your Marine Pure, that create deep, low flow areas that can create anaerobic bacteria that will work as well. All right, so there you go. Just something I've observed with the tank behind me. I'm getting low nitrate readings. Thank goodness, because with the low KH that I had to correct recently, and that you can watch that in this video where I talk about low KH. But with that low KH, a high nitrate, a lot of nitric acid would have crashed this aquarium, crashed the pH. So it's good that the nitrates were a little low when the KH was low, and that helped to prevent a real catastrophic pH shift, right? So because what are nitrates? Nitric acid, they're just a form of acid, right? So you need to neutralize that acid with minerals, calcium, magnesium, right? Watch the video that I put the link for up there. It talks about that, about all this KH, GH, and all that sort of stuff. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are appreciated. And maybe I'll see you on Saturday at the Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Always a lot of fun with a great group of fish keepers. And if you'd like to support the channel, become a Patreon supporter. It's a monthly, starts with as little as $3 a month, monthly support of the channel. Helps out a lot. And if you want to see my best overall fish keeping tips from selected, curated from the 1,500 videos I have on YouTube, start with this list of 600 videos. And here's a video that YouTube selected just for you. And if you want to subscribe, just go ahead and hit me in the mug. Let's put it right here. Thank you for tuning in, my friends. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.